We are back on Morning Line as our final segment this morning with Dr. Paul Newhouse. He's from over at Vanderbilt, the director of the Center for Cognitive Medicine.
Thank you, Nick.
Kind of at the forefront right now of some studies that are looking at improving memory loss and trying to treat Alzheimer's and the like. It's good to have you on.
That's right.
I'm just glad there's people like you around. Let's go to Marge. Marge, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Marge.
I was interested in knowing if this is a prerequisite. Both on my maternal side, my great-grandmother and my mother both had Alzheimer's. I'm 73, and when I'm interested in thinking about a factual, historical fact or whatever, I feel like the file drawer is stuck. But then, like 10 minutes later, or sometimes hours later, the idea comes right back. I mean, I remember, oh yes, this is what I was thinking of. Is that a prerequisite for Alzheimer's?
That's a great question. Everyone has that.
What Marge is talking about is essentially a retrieval problem, right? We have trouble pulling that memory out of long-term storage. And we do see that patients who develop Alzheimer's disease do show that symptom in a much greater way. But all of us have retrieval problems to some extent.
You put pressure on yourself. There's all these other factors that come into play.
That's right.
Oh, I need that memory right now. And you put pressure on. You know how it is sometimes. You choke.
That's right.
And you can't remember it. And then when you relax later and you're on the couch and you don't need it anymore, it pops in your head. That's not Alzheimer's.
That's not necessarily Alzheimer's disease.
No, interesting. What you just described, that's got to happen to everyone at one time or another.
It happens to everybody. But if it starts to happen all the time, then I would get concerned.
Okay, and then that's where she could go, or someone goes. If you're worried that you have, because I get a sense that a lot of people, especially later when they have Alzheimer's, they don't know it.
Right. So they can call the Center for Cognitive Medicine. We even do telephone screenings of memory over the phone. And I'm sure your producer can put the number up if she wants to. But at the Center for Cognitive Medicine, we do phone screening. We also have a registry which people can sign up for to learn about
Just go
new
online,
studies.
Punch it in there, and the
Center for Cognitive Medicine, and they can actually be contacted for treatment studies or other studies that might be applicable to them. They can put in information about themselves, and we will keep them abreast of what is happening in this Alzheimer's field here locally.
I'm going on there after the show. I'm not kidding. I'm fascinated by it. Let's go next to Pam. Hi, Pam.
Yes, hi. I had a quick question going back to the nicotine situation you were talking about. I'm a non-smoker, but if nicotine is a potential helpful situation, you know, to have in your system, what about like the nicotine gums? I heard you mention something about the patches.
Yeah, like Nicorette or
So, you know, I think there are a number of different ways to deliver nicotine. We personally don't use the gum in our treatment studies because gum requires you to chew it and hold it in your mouth, and also it turns out that oral absorption is just not as smooth and efficient as going through your skin, actually.
The patch,
and the patch. And so and it also involves a lot more work, right? You got to remember to put it in your mouth and hold it there. And it has more stomach side effects. So we just think the patch is a much easier way to go.
Okay, and again, we were talking earlier, it's not like if you feel you have no problem chewing nicotine or using patches now, if you're normal, is going to improve your memory.
No,
as
we don't
you said
have evidence
earlier,
for that.
It's something for perhaps these potential treatments.
That people who have dropped down, nicotine may be able to bring them up a little bit, but if you're already at the top of your game, nicotine isn't going to help.
Okay, you've been at this a while, so maybe a question here involving hope for folks. Where are we? What do you think? Where do we stand right now in the medical world with regard to treating, or even potentially down the road curing somehow Alzheimer's? Where are we on the road? Are we decades away? Are we years away? Is there any way you can quantify that?
I'm very optimistic, Nick, that we are on the threshold of developing a whole series of new treatments. We have at least 100 different medicines that are in trials around the world for Alzheimer's disease at various stages. We're developing medicines here at Vanderbilt that go from the earliest stage, right, where we're just testing a new molecule we've discovered here at Vanderbilt in normals, all the way to the nicotine trial, which is testing an old molecule or an old drug, but using it in new ways.
Right.
And so I think, yes, we've had a lot of challenges and some failures. And I just came back from the clinical trials meeting in November in Boston, and there's still a lot of excitement and optimism about where we're going to prevent and treat this illness.
Okay, that's all. So it's on the horizon.
That's
okay?
right. We're getting there. It's slow.
Okay.
It's been slower than we would have liked. 10 years ago, I would have said 10 years.
Yeah.
And now we're here.
So what you're saying is it may be too late for someone like my parents in their 80s. But it might not be too late for someone like me down the road.
That's right. So we're very hopeful that we can make an impact on slowing this disease down. And for people who already have memory loss, these new treatments that we're focusing on here at Vanderbilt are actually trying to enhance the brain's activity.
So how would someone, okay, you're here and the trials, my folks live in Idaho, or someone else watching has family around. How do they get into one of these trials?
Well, we have centers around the country that are participating in this nicotine trial. We have 30 sites actually around the country.
The thing is, nicotine, I guess as far as I can tell, unless you took tons of it, isn't going to kill you. It doesn't have huge horrible side effects.
Right.
So what would be to stop me from calling my brother and saying, Raul, go buy mom and dad Nicorette gum and have them start chewing it?
It's a free country.
But do you think that's just silly?
Well, we advise that it's not a fully tested treatment yet.
But it's going to hurt them. If it's not going to hurt them, what do you have to lose?
Well, so you can have side effects from any medicine.
Okay.
And so we always suggest that people do things under a doctor's care.
I agree.
And that if their doctor feels that this is a reasonable strategy, it can be tried. But we believe that participating in trials is the right way to go.
Of course.
Because you get better care, you get better assessment, people are looking out, they're experts in that particular area.
That makes sense.
So we recommend people, for instance, get on the Brain Health Registry or the Alzheimer's Prevention Registry or the Vanderbilt Center for Cognitive Medicine Registry and get themselves registered, and then they'll be notified about what's available for them in their area of the country.
That is awesome. By the way, the dosages of the type of nicotine, is it on par with what?
Pretty much.
Real quick, we just have 3 minutes.
Yep.
All right, for the folks sitting out there that are right now, their memory is just fine, like most of us hopefully. What are the basic, what would you say? What do you do in terms of what's the best thing you can do for your brain? A couple of things just for them to say,
sure.
I want to prevent and I want to do the best things, and don't just tell me eat right, because everyone, that's for everything.
Well, so it turns out that we actually know a lot about reducing our risk for Alzheimer's disease. Each of these is a small effect by itself, but when you begin to add it up, now you're starting to talk about real effect sizes, real benefit. And so certainly eating a Mediterranean style diet, less like the beer and brats diet of America, a more Mediterranean vegetable oriented diet. Doesn't mean you can't have meat, but more fish and more vegetable. We think physical exercise is actually probably the single best thing you can do. Physical exercise has the best effect that we can see in any prevention.
All right.
That's number 2. Number 3, keeping socially engaged. Isolation and staying by yourself is a recipe for problems.
Right.
And then finally, there may be even ways to psychologically benefit your brain by managing your stress level. There may be strategies. I'm very interested in meditation and mindfulness as an approach to improving the emotional intelligence of the brain. And so I think that by adding these different strategies together, we could all reduce our risk. It doesn't mean we won't get it, but all we have to do is push it off until we die of something else.
I think that's wonderful. All those are great. As far as supplements, things like this, you see a lot of brain vitamins, stuff like that. If you do what you said, you'd be fine. You always hear about antioxidants. Keep those. Certain foods
we don't think that antioxidants necessarily have benefit, but preventing chronic inflammation and that gets to the caller that was talking about her lupus, that seems to be important. We want to reduce inflammation.
I put raw turmeric in all my smoothies.
All right, there you go.
That might just do it. Doctor, listen, thank you so much for coming
really
on.
a pleasure.
It's been an
Thanks,
education. I'd love to have you on again as the time moves along and you develop new things and do an update on your studies.
Thank you very much,
it is a
Nick.
pleasure.
It's been a real pleasure to be here.
Dr. Paul Newhouse, we'll take a break, be back, and I think Mary Elena has that number you were discussing that we could put up for folks to call to register or to get more information. We'll be right back after this. Thank you, Doctor.
If you